Hey there. Hey, are you getting frustrated and tired of not being able to buy a house because the market is so hot? Maybe you've made a bunch of offers and they're not getting accepted. Other buyers are beating you to the best properties, or maybe you've just heard stories of other people struggling and not getting a property. And so you've decided, I don't even know if I'm going to do this. Well, today I have the answer for you. I'm going to go over 16 strategies to help you get a property, to help you purchase a home in this crazy, insane market. Hey there, my name is John Glutch. I'm the team leader of the Glutch Group. We've helped literally thousands of people buy and sell homes, and hundreds last year in this crazy real estate market we find ourselves in right now. And so I'm going big today. I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to give you 16 strategies. Like, I'm not kidding around. So this is going to take a while, but this is worth your time if you want to buy a house. Like, this is a time where the strongest survive, right? This is Darwinianism at its finest, right? Like, if you want a property, you got to fight for it, and you got to have the great strategies and the right tactics and the right philosophy to actually win in this market. So stick here with me. If you're committed, I promise I can help you get that perfect property. So let's start off with number one. And I'm going to start with a couple strategies on like the big picture. And then I'm going to get really tactical with specific offer strategies you can handle. And here, let me start with this caveat real quick. So I'm a licensed real estate agent in Arizona. I run a team in California as well. And things are always changing, rules and all this kind of stuff, it's always changing. So you're going to want to check, if you're not working with me and my team, with your realtor before you execute any of these strategies. Make sure it's all legit and above board and that you're comfortable with it. Some of these strategies have some risk associated with them, could cost you some money if you do it wrong. You do not, some of these are like professional moves. Like, these are high tactics. Like, you're brother's uncle who's been a realtor for a week should not do some of these things, right? So you want to make sure you're with a pro who really knows their stuff. So that's my disclaimer. Now let me get right to the good stuff. Okay, first of all, you might want to look at old listings, especially if you are a buyer who needs some closing cost credit. You got a really low down payment, or your loan product is kind of more challenging to get accepted. It's probably not the best scenario for you to go run out to the very best properties the day they get listed and fight against the people who are buying cash or putting 20% down and don't need, like, those are hard. You can win those battles. Like, we've won those battles for people, or we bid out cash offers, that kind of thing, but it's hard. And so we're always encouraging people, like, hey, maybe you wait for the listing that's been around a week or two, because it's probably a little overpriced when they listed it, or it needs work or whatever. Those might be good opportunities for you to go check out and get yourself a property. I always tell people, think about why you're doing this. You're not doing this because you really want the perfect granite kitchen. Not really. What you're really doing it for is some other reason. You're sick of paying rent. You're sick of wasting money. You want a foothold in the real estate market. You don't want to get left behind when a year from now houses are 20% more money, or interest rates are higher. Whatever that thing is, that will allow you to compromise a little bit on getting the very perfect kitchen cabinets and the perfect open floor plan, whatever. You go, you know what, I'm going to look at the house that a lot of other people overlooked, and I'm going to get my foot in the door here with the real estate game and go buy a property that maybe I have to compromise a little bit on what my dream list was, but at least I'm in the game. I'm not renting anymore, right? So those properties may be on the market a week or two, or maybe in a month or two. Those might be good ones for you to go look at. So just from a strategy standpoint, that might be something you consider. Number two, just go see the house. So what I mean by that is, a lot of clients want to ask all these questions about listings before they go see the property. And, do the drapes convey with the house? And what about the fridge? And it's, by the time I get answers to those questions, the house is sold. So if you're interested in the house, again, these are unusual times. This is blood sport. Like, we're in the game. So all these questions, like, you're just going to have to let some of that stuff go and go see the house. Like, let's go get in the car, check out the property, and if you like it, make an offer. Like, we just don't have time to do all these little knick-knack questions. Just get in there, go see the property, and if you like it, let's make an offer. Let's go for it, right? That's not great advice when the market's soft, but right now, that's really good advice. Okay. Number three, love letter. So you want to start thinking right now about what it is why you want to buy a house. Like this, you've probably heard this before, but a lot of times when we're making offers, we're writing a love letter. We're explaining to the seller of the property why you as the buyer love the house. And people are emotional human beings who make decisions based on emotion and then justify them with their minds. And I've seen investors take worse offers from somebody who was from Colorado because they went to college in Colorado, right? That doesn't make any sense, but we're emotional human beings. So you want to connect with their emotions. So you want to start thinking about, for your own benefit, and for the reasons I just explained of knowing really why you want to do this, And also so you can kind of craft a little love letter that allows you to convey to the seller of the property, even before you see it, why you love about their house, right? You can kind of get the framework down, get a nice picture of your family. And then I've also got a blog post on our that I'll link to in this post of like the specific strategy for doing a love letter. So copy that format exactly, get the thing ready. And then when you find the perfect house, you can fill in the details about their specific house and what you love about that specific house. So love letter is super helpful. You can even step it up and do a love video where you actually you go see the house, you know it's for you, you're going to make an offer, have your agent do a video of you in the property or out in front of the property going, dude, this is incredible, this is what I love about your house. And you're trying to connect with them on an emotional level. If you saw something in the home that clearly they care about, ASU or whatever it is, talk about how you went to ASU, make a connection as a human being. Those love letters, those love videos really do make a big difference in connecting with those sellers. So that's number 3. Number 4, pick a close date that they want. So not all sellers want to be out next week. Some of them have to find a house to buy, right? And they don't know when that's going to happen or whatever. So a lot of times now we're writing offers where we say, hey, we're going to close whatever in 30 days. We'll close on the house, but we'll rent it back to you for free for like 3 months, which would be really appealing to somebody who hasn't found a new house to buy yet or whatever, has some reason to stick around. So we want, again, they're emotional. And we want to kind of touch, their heart in that way of like, oh gosh, that's so free. Okay, I don't have to worry about it now because I have my free rent, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot of money, and it makes you look better than some of these other offers who didn't take the time to ask the list agent, what's the scenario with this seller? Do they need a lease back? Do they want to close fast? Do they want to be done as quick as possible? Whatever it is, figure that out. Don't just assume they want to close quickly. It could be any number of things. So ask some questions, figure out how you can really address the needs of that person. I'd say if I had one big theme for all this, it's that theme of emotion. People are emotional. So trying to connect with them at an emotional level and solve their problems for them in the offer that you write. All right, number 5. Now we're starting to get into the money stuff. So this one would be $100 per day or any number you want per day penalty for closing late. If someone does really care about you closing on time, then put in a penalty where, hey, if I can't get this done in time, if something happens that I screw up the loan, my lender screws up, whatever, then we start the clock running. And every day we go late, it's $100 to you, the seller. That gives them a little safety, calms some of their fear about you closing late because they know you have skin in the game. And the likelihood of this is not going to actually cost you any money because you're going to close on time. If you got a good realtor, good lender, that shouldn't be a problem. So I like that it solves a fear need in the seller without really costing you anything. So I really like that one. I think that's a solid strategy. Number 6, price. Okay, so what price do you offer? You want to offer in this market as high as you can possibly go without to where it's kind of so painful that if you didn't get it, you'd be okay. Like that's how high you want to go if you really want the property. What you don't want to do is kind of go in there trying to save $3,000 and you don't get it and you're just so bummed and you're thinking about it for a month on how you missed out on that great property. Like, you want the price to be high enough to where you're sort of okay walking away, like it should hurt a little bit. And that's kind of the best because sometimes the numbers are impossible. You're just guessing. We can give you a guess as realtors like, hey, normally a $600,000 house is selling X above list price. We can give you some ideas, some guesses. But at the end of the day, it's really kind of your feeling about what you're willing to pay for this property. So go high. Make it hurt a little bit and, make sure you don't lose it over a few bucks that you'd be really bummed about. Remember when you're doing that to factor in the actual cost. Paying an extra $20,000, $30,000 sounds like a lot. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money. But the reality is it doesn't cost you a whole lot per month, right? The monthly cost, figure what that is of what you're actually, and so, hey, is this house worth an extra $50 a month for me? Whatever that math is, pretty simple. Just do a mortgage calculator online. You can figure that out and figure it out. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to pay, right? Okay, number 7, escalation clause. So these, again, not to be done by rookies, but what we can do is we can write an escalation clause. So we're going to make it hurt, on the offer price. And I tell you what, this is what an escalation clause is. If someone offers more than the whatever, 600,000 I'm offering, I'm going to beat the next highest guy by like $5,000. You can fill in whatever blank you want, right? And that way you're not going to get beat by $1,000 in theory. Now, there could be 5 or 6 people with escalation clauses. When that happens, generally speaking, the list agent lists what we do. We'll just kind of ask everyone, what's your highest and best? We're just going to pick the best one, So that might happen. But I always like to put them in there because again, you don't want to get beat for a few $1,000 when you could have been the highest one if no one else wrote an escalation clause. So I tend to put them in there, but I also want to start as high as you can, within reason. So I like an escalation clause to give us a little bit of a edge up on people who might not have put one in there. And the other thing too is you might go, well, gosh, that could be crazy. That number could go insane, right? What if some other person's willing to pay $800,000? Okay, well, if they are, and you really wanted to pay $650, and you get the deal, you can just cancel it, right? Like you have an inspection period. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. You have a lot of outs, and this, especially right away when the price comes back insane, and you just go, listen, that's not going to work. Give it to the other guy. So there's no point in putting a ceiling on your escalation clause. Just write it up, leave it open ended, see what comes back. All right, number 8. Define. Okay, so let me talk you through earnest money here. So earnest money is a check you're going to write if you get a deal. Seller accepts your offer. You're going to write a check. Now, here's the situation: is sellers cannot cancel on buyers unless the buyers do something wrong according to the contract. The buyer, however, has lots of outs. They have an inspection period, and if they don't get a loan, they can cancel. If their appraisal comes in low, they can cancel. The contract is written to favor buyers because buyers are making a big decision. They don't, the seller's risk is minimal. They already live in the house. So there's very little risk there. So the contracts are written to give the buyers lots of outs. So in a hot market, a seller is trying to figure out, how can I get the buyer to take on more of this risk that I'm currently assuming based on this contract? And so the way we figure out, okay, what's the penalty if the buyer does in fact screw up, cancel the contract when they're not supposed to, can't close, whatever. The damages are earnest money. So earnest money, you fill in the blank on how much earnest money you're going to give the seller if you do something wrong. If you break your word according to the contract, you don't have to buy the house. You have to forfeit your earnest money, right? So that amount is typically 1%, 2% of the purchase price of the property, something like that. Of course, the higher the better, because this is your I'm serious money. This money is going to go to the title company, and the title company is going to hold on to it according to the terms of the contract. They're a neutral third party. And if the deal doesn't happen, they're going to look at the contract and go, well, the buyer canceled after their inspection period. So the seller gets the earnest money, right? And so the seller wants that number to be as high as possible. You as the buyer want it to be low as possible because that's your risk in the deal. So you got to pick that number. And you kind of want it similar to the price thing. You want it to be enough to really make the seller feel more confident, more comfortable that you're not kidding around, but not so much that if you did screw up, if you did cancel the deal, something went wrong, it would ruin your life. You want it to be kind of painful, but not ruin your life painful, right? So that number, kind of the higher the better to some degree, as long as you're okay with the fact that you could indeed lose the money. Now, it's not going to be a surprise if you have a good realtor that you lose the money. You should know exactly the circumstances under which you would lose that money. Like, it's not just going to magically disappear, but you want to know that, hey, the risk I'm assuming, I'm okay putting this much money on the line based on the risk. So that's how earnest money works. Now, let me kind of walk you through the conditions under which you can and cannot cancel and how you might want to remove some of the ways you get to cancel to make this look better to the seller. Again, I told you, hold in, this can be a long video, but if you really care about getting a house, this is really, really valuable advice that's hard won by me and all my agents and all the work we do to help our buyers get property. So let me walk you through these conditions, right? First one is your inspection period. Now, your inspection period is the period during which you get to poke around at the house, make sure you like it, have your inspector go through there, your aunt, your uncle, your friends, whatever. And you can basically cancel for any reason. There's some specific contract language that kind of tells you why and what you can and can't cancel. But generally, you can cancel just because you change your mind. There are ways to do that. So this is the most risky time for the seller because you could just change your mind, right? So the shorter that time frame is, the better for the seller. The longer it is for you, the better. And during that time, if you cancel, you get the earnest money back. Period. No questions asked. As long as your agent fills out the paperwork right, you're good. So one way you could make your offer look really, really good is you go, hey, I'm just going to waive all the inspections. I don't even have to do any inspections, right? Or you get an inspection before you even make an offer. We can have our home inspectors, if you really like a property, get over there lickety split, do a simple inspection, not like, every little thing, but the basics, make sure you know what you're buying, especially if it's a newer property, not quite as many risks, that kind of thing. We can say, hey, listen, we're going to waive the inspection period. That removes a huge risk from the seller. Now, that's like aggressive. That's a real serious strategy you want to think through. Most people should have some kind of inspection period. The shorter you can manage, the better in terms of getting your offer accepted. But most people really do need a little bit of time to think this through, make sure that it's really what they want to do, get their inspector over there, that kind of thing. But if you're not kidding around, you really want a house, you could always waive your inspection period. All right, next item is hard earnest money. This is like the craziest of crazy. This is you write an offer saying the earnest money, Mr. Buyer or Mr. Seller, is yours, whether or not I buy this house. If I buy it, of course, the money is going to go toward the purchase price of the home. But if I don't, you get the earnest money, period. So this is, I'm not kidding around money. This is like, I know I'm going to get my loan. I'm not worried at all about the inspections. I'm not worried about the appraisal coming in. I'm going to do this deal, right? So that's the way like foreclosures are bought at the auction. There is no plan B. You get the house, period, or you lose your money. So this would be something that would be, again, like really, really, it's super high risk because you're going to lose the money if you change your mind for any reason or something goes wrong. And very attractive to the seller, right? This would be the highest risk, highest reward option you have available would be to totally make your earnest money hard from the very beginning. So that's not kidding around, but it is a strategy that could work. All right, number 10, I think we're on here. A lot of options. Nope, number 11, inspections up front. I talked about that a minute ago. You could get your inspections right from the very beginning and get that cleared right out of the way. That way you could conceivably remove your inspection period. Number 12, releasing the earnest money right after the inspection. Okay, so the title company is a neutral third party, and they're going to, if something goes sideways, they're going to pick who gets the earnest money. But what you could say is, listen, after the inspection period, the earnest money goes to the seller. It's going to go toward them anyways. They're going to get the money when we close. This adds an element of security to them that they actually get to hang on to that cash as soon as you get through the inspection period or whatever. You could say 15 days, anything like that. So releasing the earnest money, again, a nice way to say, hey, I'm serious about this. I like this strategy too, because again, there's no real cost. And as long as you're very confident, like after your inspection period, the only two outs you really have are your appraisal and your loan. So if you don't qualify for the loan, or if your appraisal comes in low, and if you're very confident in those things, then shoot, why not release the earnest money? They're going to get it anyways in a cancellation. So I like that strategy as well. But there's definitely some risk there. Okay, number 13, appraisal contingency. So again, you've got your first way out is your inspection period. So I just talked about a bunch of ways to sort of remove take the risk off of the seller and put it onto you. Make that shorter inspection period, do it up front, release your earning, all that stuff. The second out is your appraisal. Now, this is a concern because if you try to buy a house for $1 million and it's a crazy hot market and the appraiser looks around and goes, listen, that's not worth $1 million, it's worth 900. That's a problem because you were maybe getting a loan. Let's say you're getting an 80-20 loan. You're going to put 20% down. You're going to put $200,000 down and borrow $800,000 from the lender. If the appraiser says, no, that's worth 900, not $1 million, now you got a problem because now you have to put more money down. You have to make up that difference. The lender is only going to lend 80% of the 900 that the appraiser says it's worth, not 80% of the $1 million that you and the seller agreed upon. We're not seeing a lot of these problems because the appraisers kind of get that the market's insane, but it's still a very realistic possibility that this happens. So you want to be thinking about if the appraisal comes in low and do I have the cash to make up that difference? If you've got a bunch of money in the bank and you don't mind putting more money down, this is easy to overcome. You're not paying any more for the house. You're just putting more money down. So that makes it easy. But if you're tight on cash, this is something to really think about is like, if this thing appraises low, what am I going to do? Because in this market, the seller is very likely not going to lower their price to your appraised value. They are more likely going to go, dude, either come up with the extra cash or I'm moving on to one of the other 10 people who want to buy this house. So you want to think that through. Your agent needs to do a good job of evaluating, do they think the appraisal is going to come in low or not? And if you can, waive the appraisal. And you can waive it to an amount. You could say, hey, if it appraises for anywhere up to, let's say, $950, then I can make up the difference, on the $1 million example. Like I can make up that kind of, but if it's less than that, I'm in trouble. Well, I get to bail out because if it appraises low, you can just cancel as the buyer. So this allows you the opportunity to put in kind of a range there that you're comfortable in. One other strategy is if you order your appraisal right away and you get it fast enough during your inspection period, you could conceivably waive your appraisal, say, listen, I'm never going to cancel on an appraisal if the appraisal comes in low, period. Knowing in your own kind of strategy that you're going to order that appraisal right away and get it during your inspection period. If it's a long enough inspection period and your lender and your agent say, we can get that appraisal back in, let's say your inspection period is 10 days and you're confident you can get the appraisal back in 9. Well, if you get it on day 9 and it's crazy low, well, you can cancel. You find some reason in your inspection that you decide you're not going to do this deal, right? So that's a strategy that allows you to waive the appraisal, which is really good for the seller. And also kind of keep some of the risk off of your plate and go, hey, let's make sure we know what the appraisal is going to come in at. So that's one way to get that pulled off, waiving your appraisal contingency. And there's a bunch of nuance around that, different ways to do that. But that's a great strategy that really can work and helps you take some of the risk from the seller. Okay, waive your loan contingency. So this one I like too. If you're real confident on your loan, is just to waive loan contingency. Just say, hey, I'm going to get this loan. And the way the contracts are written, the risk of like your loan falling apart in the last hour and the seller getting canceled on and you getting your earnest money back is pretty high. And that's a pretty bad risk for the seller to take. So waiving a loan contingency, if you're very confident in, you have a great lender who's done a good job underwriting the loan, they're very confident, then you might want to waive that contingency and say, I'm not going to cancel if something happens in the last hour and I can't get my loan. So that's a good one I like to consider as well. Again, you want to make sure you talk to your lender about that. I want to remind you too, the worst case scenario here is you lose your earnest money. So if you're not worried about the $5,000 or the $10,000 or whatever it is, and you can live without it, you can go hog on this thing and just say, hey, I'm going to release it from the very beginning. And none of this other stuff really matters. Now the seller is super confident that you're either closing or they get your money. That's a really powerful strategy if you've got the money to burn and you're not super worried about it. So just to kind of backtrack to, here's the real risk. The risk is always about the earnest money. Now, could you guys get in a lawsuit between the buyer and the seller? Well, yeah, things could go wrong. Anybody could sue anybody for anything. But almost all the time, your risk is really your earnest money. All right, let's see. Number 15. If the seller... okay, so here's another one. If one of the things we could write in the contract is to force the seller to decide quickly, because what's happening often now is we do this on our listings. We list our properties and we list them on Thursdays typically, and we don't even look at offers till Monday because we want to get as many as possible. Shoot, if we can get 10 or 20, that's great. The more, the better. So that's a great strategy for listing agents. But as a buyer's agent, that's a problem because now we're waiting around for somebody to come up with a better offer than I just submitted. So one of the things we can do is try to force their hand by saying, listen, Mr. Seller, if you accept this offer by, let's say, in my example, we listed it Thursday, you could write an offer and say, hey, listen, I know you're going to wait till Monday, but I tell you what, if you'll accept this offer on Friday, I'll give you an extra $5,000. That's pretty compelling. I love this strategy. I think it's fantastic because it could very likely get you into a spot where you get accepted when they were supposed to wait around till Monday for better offers. Now, a little bit you showed your hand, right? Because if you offer $1 million and you say, I'll pay you, whatever, $1,010,000, and they go, well, you said you'd pay this. I'm going to wait around till Monday and I'm going to get you to pay that anyways because nobody came in with a higher offer than you. That's a possibility, right? There's a little bit of risk, but I still love the idea. I don't, you would have paid it anyways. So who cares? Why not try to force their hand and get them to go up on their price? I think that's a really smart strategy. Okay, this one's a little bit, number 16 here, last one, a little bit complicated, but I'll try my best to simplify it. And this is to get for you, the buyer, to pay the seller's closing costs. This could be loan fees, title and escrow fees. Could even be the agent's commissions. Sellers pay the agent's commissions. You could even pay some of those. Why I like this is because it directly increases the bottom line of the seller without increasing the price. We're always worried about if we inflate that price, the more we inflate it, the greater the danger is that we're going to have an appraisal issue. So the way we avoid all that is we say, listen, Mr. Seller, I'll pay $10,000 worth of your closing costs. That's just as good for them. It's actually a little better for them than raising the price. Because if they raise the price, now they have to pay all the realtors a little bit more money. So I'm costing myself a little bit of money here. You're welcome. Because the price is higher and the commissions are all based on the price. So now we didn't inflate that price and the seller gets more money. So it's better for them. It's actually better for the buyers. Worked for Uncle Sam because the buyer now didn't inflate the price. So the property taxes are based on the sale price. So you got a little lower price now, which is great because your property tax would be a little lower. So I love this. I think this is a no-brainer. It requires cash though. So, you have to have them. This is not, now you're paying money directly out of your pocket that is not going to affect the loan amount. So the lender's still going to lend 80% of whatever it is, let's say $100,000. Now you just straight cash out of pocket are paying the seller their closing costs. So awesome strategy to get the deal. Bad strategy if you're trying to borrow as much money as possible. But if you got the cash, I love this. I think it's super smart. So 16, count them, fantastic ideas right there. Don't say I never helped you. I'm here to help. My name is John Gletch. I'm with the Gletch Group again. Please feel free to reach out if you'd like for us to deploy these many strategies for you. We will bring the big cannons with us and go get you a deal. It's a lot of fun for us right now because this is the jungle. This is when the people who are good are getting deals done, and it's a lot of fun. So hope this helped. Go back, rewind, look at the notes, all that. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help. Thanks so much. Have a great day.